We just saw Chris Johnston scrum lurking in that scrum with Leon Draisaitl. How appropriate that he joins our Ryan Rishaug, our Edmonton bureau chief, to chat about this Game 2 loss. And Ryan, I'll start with you. The Oilers, 19 shots on net, just 6 from forwards. What's the frustration level for Connor McDavid and Leon Draisaitl right now?
Yeah, it's pretty muddy out there for not just those guys, but really all the Oiler forwards. Just very little offense generated on this night from the entire group. But those two are the tip of the spear, and so they will always be the focus, Jay. And bottom line, it's through 2 games of the Stanley Cup final here. Rodrigues has 3 goals on the other side. These guys have 1 assist between the 2 of them. So offensively, it's just not good enough. You know, it's tough, right? They have great shutdown players over on Florida, and they do a great job of keeping them to the outside. We're watching McDavid doing what he can. He's handling the puck with those magic hands, but everything stays to the outside. And when they try and go through the middle, often it's forced, and sticks are in the right place for the Florida Panthers. So they're just doing a great job. And certainly there is some frustration creeping in for sure. That power play has gone dry, probably overpassing it a little bit. All eyes are on these 2, CJ, and so far, not a lot to show here through the first couple of games, and they're in a tough hole now.
Sure, and I like the accountability. I like Leon Draisaitl coming out right after the game saying, you know, we can be better. It starts with me. You know, that's a good sign here because let's face it, there is frustration there. They wait all this time to get to the Stanley Cup final, and what's the storyline now heading home? They got 2 off days. You know, one of them will be for travel predominantly, but there's going to be a lot of focus on them, a lot of discussion about the fact they haven't scored. I mean, McDavid in particular has had the looks. He has a partial breakaway in the 3rd period of this game, too. He had 6 shots in game 1 and some really good looks there. But, you know, unless these guys score, I mean, this is going to be a huge storyline with the season, you know, more or less on the line in game 3, down 2-0.
And the last thing I'll add, Jay, on that, like we're focused on McDavid and Draisaitl here, and rightfully so, but it was almost like you were just waiting for McDavid and his line to get back on the ice so the Oilers would at least have a fighting chance to play on the other end. The rest of this forward group, and yes, they were shorthanded, they were not dangerous at all. They generated nothing, no shots, barely anything. McDavid's line was the most dangerous, and they weren't that dangerous tonight. So this entire group, it's gut check time for them because the Panthers are making it tough and getting better, and they had nothing tonight.
Hey, guys, I mean, Evan Rodrigues has more goals in the Stanley Cup final than the Edmonton Oilers have in the Stanley Cup final at this point. And that game-winning goal by Rodrigues, Ryan, really the result of some terrible mistakes by the Oilers.
For sure. And listen, Evan Bouchard's game has been so good at both ends of the ice through these playoffs. He hasn't made a lot of tough mistakes like this. This is the type of mistake that Evan Bouchard would have made a little bit earlier on in his career. So we'll take a look at this winning goal. Couple of mistakes. Ryan McLeod with a turnover right there. Ryan McLeod barely played tonight. Didn't give them a lot of usable minutes and made that mistake there. And then obviously the turnover from Evan Bouchard, and it ends up in the back of the net. The margin for error, CJ, in this series is so slim that making mistakes, the Florida Panthers are pouncing on them. The Oilers haven't been able to extract those kind of mistakes from the Panthers, and that's difference making. These little margins, they're so thin, CJ.
They are, and look, the Panthers probably don't get enough love for how defensively stout they've been. I mean, all season long, not allowing much against. We've seen this script play out in their previous series throughout these playoffs, and they're just a tough team to break through. You know, we gave Bobrovsky all kinds of love in game 1, and naturally so.
He's trademarked that. You
I
can't
know.
do that.
I assumed it was safe for this
I
show.
thought it was great. I thought it
Yeah.
was great. You fully have permission to do that, CJ, anytime. You can continue to use it that way. We love that emphatic nature, the way you said it. Hey, wait, I got to ask you about Darnell Nurse, guys. Darnell Nurse looked like he got injured on that hit from Evan Rodrigues in the first period. You know, you're already healthy, scratched Cody Ceci for this one. That was a major story. So any updates on Darnell Nurse after Game 3, Ryan?
Yeah, Chris Knobloch was asked about it. He didn't have any answers, right? It's going to take a little bit for him to get evaluated. Basically said they think he'll be available moving forward. We saw him a little bit afterwards. Obviously, he looked pretty tender, right? The interesting thing to me, CJ, was how much Darnell Nurse was trying it out on commercial breaks and such. It's rare to see a player. He was really pushing himself during commercial breaks to skate, and as periods were starting, but didn't have much to give them.
I don't recall players staying on the bench like that, playing one shift in the second period, one shift in the third period, trying it out, as you're saying. Like that doesn't happen too often. And I do remember years ago, Jonathan Taves staying on the bench, but he just wasn't an option to play, kind of a sign of solidarity. But, you know, unusual for Darnell to be able to hang around. Chris Knobloch did say he thought he would be able to play Game 3. I don't know if that was an official medical update or maybe just trying to will it into existence. But for as much as Darnell Nurse has taken heat in these playoffs, I mean, he soaks up a lot of minutes for the Oilers. And, it's a tall task if he's going to be unavailable. So, we'll see where that goes.
And never mind unavailable, CJ, if he's diminished. Like, if he's significantly diminished. We saw in that last series, Jay, when Darnell Nurse really checked into that series, he was a difference maker. That's the Darnell Nurse that the Oilers need if they're going to have any chance of beating the Florida Panthers. So even if he's available but diminished significantly, that is a tough one for the Oilers.
So we got a couple of days before Game 3. That'll be Thursday night back in Edmonton, and lots of storylines to talk about, obviously, as we head into that one. Ryan, CJ, thanks for this. You guys were great.
We'll see how Bobrovsky does. Did I do it right?
That was pretty good.
You could have given it a little bit
does
more.
in the next
could have
game.
given it a little more.
That was pretty good. That was also good. In fact, I'm starting to think we should have a reality show where everyone gets a chance to try to say that name. And the winner, I'm not sure what the winner will get, but in last year's Stanley Cup final, Bobrovsky allowed a whopping 21 goals in 5 games. In the first 2 games of this Stanley Cup final, he surrendered just 1 goal on 51 shots. He's back on the case. Game 3, as I mentioned, Thursday in Edmonton. Edmonton has not lost 3 games since February.